Hello everyone! We are back with a new month of the Reading Buddy Book Club. This is the ages 8 to 11 book club where we will be reading one book, Upside Down Magic, over the course of July. So the Reading Buddy Book Club is new this year for Fayetteville Public Library Summer Reading Club, led by Miss Sarah and myself. My name is Emily, and I'm an assistant youth and teen librarian here at Fayetteville Public Library. So just a little bit about how the Reading Buddy Book Club works. If you have signed up here at the library for the Reading Buddy Book Club for July, you should have been getting emails from me about receiving a supply bag, which will have a reading buddy in it, as well as coloring pages, crafts, stickers, bookmarks, all kinds of good stuff like that. If you have not signed up and you're just here to listen along, read along, that is perfectly fine. You are welcome here as well. So every week, since this book is a little longer, every week we will have 2 episodes, one on Sunday and one on Wednesday for the next 4 weeks, so the entire month of July. And each video we will read a couple more chapters of Upside Down Magic. So if you guys are ready to jump in, then go ahead, grab your reading buddy, and make sure you give them a name. And grab a snack if you want, grab a drink, get comfy, and let's start reading. Chapter 1. Nory Horace was trying to turn herself into a kitten. The kitten had to be a black kitten, and it had to be completely kitten-shaped. It was the middle of summer. Nory was hiding in her family garage. Kitten, 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 she thought. She was hiding in case something went wrong. She didn't want anyone to see. Still, if something went really wrong, her brother and sister would be close enough to hear her yell for help. Or meow for help. Or roar. Nory decided not to think about that. Hopefully, she wouldn't need help. Kitten, kitten, kitten. She had to master kitten because tomorrow was the big test. Tomorrow, after so many years of waiting, she would finally take the entrance exam for Sage Academy. The school was very hard to get into. You wouldn't be accepted with anything less than amazing talents. Nory's friends weren't even bothering to try. They were all taking tests for easier schools. If Nory passed the big test, she would start 5th grade at Sage Academy in the fall. If she failed the test, no, she couldn't fail. She wasn't taking tests for any other schools, not only because Sage Academy was a very important, very fancy magic school, but also because her brother, Hawthorne, went there. And her sister, Dahlia, did too. Plus, Nory's father was kind of the headmaster. Okay, not kind of. He definitely was the headmaster. Thinking about the big test made Nory queasy. Her magic was strong. There was no doubt about that. But sometimes her magic went wonky. And Sage Academy did not want wonky. A black kitten was likely to be on the big test tomorrow. It was a beginner animal. Nory had turned herself into a black cat loads of times, actually. The problem was what happened after. But Nory would not think about that now. Instead, she took a deep breath and lifted her chin. Kitten, kitten, kitten. The world went blurry, and Nory's heart beat faster. Her body stretched and shrank. There were popping sounds. Yay, kitten! But wait. Her mouth felt wrong. Nory clacked her teeth together. Clack, clack, clack. Whoa. These weren't normal teeth. These were long. These were sharp. These were powerful. Long, sharp, and powerful enough to chomp through wood. Nory thought, feeling odd. Why would a kitten want to chop wood? Nory looked over her shoulder. She saw a perfect black kitten tail swishing in the air. Connected to the tail was a set of black kitten legs with padded feet and sharp claws. She looked down, expecting to see a matching set of front legs where her arms used to be, but her front legs weren't kitten legs. The fur was brown and slick. Also, she seemed to have a fat, round tummy. And what was this nose? She couldn't see it well, but it had nothing kittenish about it. It was more of a snout, a beaver nose. Zamboozle, I'm half kitten and half beaver, Nory realized. Her magic had definitely gone wonky. Not again, she thought. What am I doing wrong? I'll fail the big test if I do this tomorrow. I should change back right away and try again for perfect kitten. Yes, that's exactly what I should do. But the beaver kitten part of Nory wasn't listening. Beaver kitten Nory didn't care about the big test. Beaver kitten Nory just wanted to chew stuff with her awesome beaver teeth. She searched the garage. Wood. Where was the wood around here? Must chew, Beaver kitten Nory thought. Must make beaver dam. No, no, said the dim voice of girl Nory. Beaver kitten Nory waddled out of the garage and into the house. Then she went upstairs and into her father's office. Tree stumps would do, or branches, anything really made of wood. Nory spotted her father's bookshelf. It was very beautiful, having been lovingly built over 200 years ago by craftsmen in Europe. It was a very important, very expensive piece of furniture, and it looked delicious. Ooh, Beaver kitten Nory thought. Look at that. A wooden tall thing, chewy rectangular things. She nudged one of the books onto the floor and nibbled it. Hard on the outside, like bark, tender on the inside, like leaves. Chew, chew, chew. Beaver kitten Nory gnawed through 4 of her father's books. Then she bit through the legs of her father's solid oak desk. Next, she chewed off a section of her father's favorite armchair. She dragged fluff and wood into the guest bathroom and built a small beaver lodge under the sink. Then she chased her kitten tail for a couple of minutes and used a pile of ripped up pages for a litter box. It was awesome. She was awesome. She, Beaver kitten Nory, felt better than she had in weeks. At least until her brother, Hawthorne, found her. Chapter 2. Hawthorne was 16. He took care of most of the house stuff because their father, Dr. Horace, was too busy and important to be bothered with making dinner and braiding hair, and because their mother wasn't around. She had died a long time ago. Hawthorne liked sports and cooking and bossing people around. He also liked setting things on fire, since he was a flarer. A really good flare, too. His powers never went wonky. Nory, Hawthorne cried now, staring at the beaver lodge. What are you doing? Beaver kitten Nory tried to rub her face on Hawthorne's pant leg. I don't even know what you are right now, he went on, but you better change back and help me clean up. Seriously, what have you done? It stinks in here. His voice made Beaver kitten Nory tremble. Nory, change back now, he yelled. Ploof. He'd scared Nory into returning to her proper girl shape. Big hair, small body, brown skin, purple shirt. There was a bit of armchair fabric stuck to her teeth. Yuck, she spit it out. This was a disaster. The office and the bathroom were smelly messes. Father's favorite armchair looked like it had exploded. His antique desk tilted dangerously on 3 legs. Some of his precious books now resembled coleslaw. He was going to be really, really angry. Sorry, Nory whispered. Hawthorne looked mad and scared. Just help me clean, he told his sister. We don't have long. Together they fixed up the damage as well as they could. They filled garbage bag after garbage bag. They wiped surfaces with spray cleaner. When the bathroom looked like a bathroom again, Hawthorne called a carpenter to repair the desk and armchair. He made Nory vacuum up the wood dust. He found the website for the Cup and Chaucer bookshop and ordered new copies of all the books Nory had ruined. When all of this was done, Nory cleared her throat and asked, Hawthorne, are you still mad at me? He looked at her. You have to keep your human mind in control, Nory. That is all there is to it. I know. And when you turn into an animal, turn into a normal animal, he snapped. Stop mixing your parts up. You're getting really wonky and nobody likes it. I was practicing kitten like you told me to, Nory explained, and then the beaver part just happened, and everything went upside down. That's what you were, said Hawthorne, a kitten beaver? Beaver kitten, actually, said Nory. She thought for a moment, then grinned. A bitten. Whatever it was gross, Hawthorne said. Nory's grin disappeared. Plus, you lost control like you always do, Hawthorne continued. We'll have to blame Dahlia's rabbits, I guess. Dahlia, the middle Horace child, was 13. She was a fuzzy and had lots of pets, including 2 bats, 3 toads, a ferret, a toucan, a pair of mice, and 12 rabbits. They weren't well behaved. The ferret pooped on the carpet, so did the toads, and the bats were always going into people's hair. It wasn't a stretch to blame Nory's mess on the bunnies. Still, Nory felt guilty. The rabbits shouldn't get in trouble for her mistake. Neither should Dahlia. She twisted her hands. Shouldn't we tell Father what really happened? No, Hawthorne said. We don't want him angry at you. Not the day before the big test. Nory bowed her head. Maybe Hawthorne was right. Some lies were safer than the truth. Up until summer vacation, Nory had gone into ordinary school like everyone her age. Nory's ordinary school was called Woodydale. It was kindergarten through 4th grade, just like all the other ordinary schools. Nory had studied reading and writing, math and science, gym, art, and music. The one thing she hadn't studied was magic, since a person's powers didn't bubble up until around the time she or he turned 10. Once you were 10 and ready for 5th grade, you enrolled in a different school. You still had to read and do math and play basketball, but you also practiced magic. The kind of magic you practiced depended on your talent. Some kids were flares. They have fire talent like Hawthorne. Some were fuzzies. They had animal talents like Dahlia. Others were flickers or flyers or fluxers. Nory was a fluxer, although she wasn't a regular fluxer. Her magic was unusually big. Unlike most fluxers, she could turn into a lot of animals, but Nory hid her magic from Father because it always went wonky. For example, she'd been a perfectly nice skunk and suddenly swelled up to the size of an elephant, and then grew a trunk. Or she'd be a perfectly nice puppy and then grow squid legs. Nory knew that Father would disapprove of the puppy with squid legs. He would disapprove a lot. Another problem was that girl Nory almost always lost control of her human self during her transformations and ended up making a big mess. Skunkifant Nory had become obsessed with finding peanuts and had stunk up the Horace kitchen. They'd had to scrub everything with bleach and convince Father that some real skunks had snuck through the kitchen window. Puppy Squid Nory had chewed all of Dahlia's shoes and then squirted Hawthorne with nasty squid ink. Hawthorne had claimed that he'd been the victim of an exploding pen. Even Black Kitten had gone wrong 4 different ways. The scariest was when Nory had developed a touch of dragon and breathed fire at the sofa. Hawthorne had taken the blame for that one, telling Father he'd goofed up a flare seat warming project. Father had bought a new sofa and made Hawthorne pay for part of it, but Nory wondered if he'd really been fooled. Hawthorne got top marks and flare students at Sage Academy. He never would have made a mistake like that. Father must have known that Nory's transformation power was out of control. He just didn't want to talk about it. He didn't talk about a lot of things. When Father got home from Sage Academy that evening, Hawthorne told him about the damage. Immediately, Father marched up to his office to see for himself. Hawthorne, Dahlia, and Nory followed. Dahlia, Father said, frowning at the scratch marks on his desk. You have to get those rabbits in line. Discipline is what they need. Discipline and a better lock on their pens. You'll take care of that, yes? Yes, Father, Dahlia said. She glared at Nory. Father hesitated. Well, thank you, Hawthorne, for calling the carpenter and ordering new copies of my books. Hawthorne nodded. Father glanced at Nory. For a second, she thought he was going to say something to her. Maybe he would ask what really happened. Maybe he'd offer his help. Instead, he clenched and unclenched his fingers 3 times. The entire messed-up office disappeared around them. Most flickers could make things invisible, but only extremely powerful flickers could make an entire room disappear while people were still standing in it. All the edges were neat and even, too. The Horace family appeared to be hovering above the dining room. Go downstairs, children, Father said. I'd prefer not to be disturbed for the rest of the evening. He himself disappeared, and the conversation was over. Father left early for work the next morning. Nory ate breakfast with Dahlia, Hawthorne, and a few of Dahlia's rabbits. Do you want your egg hard or soft-boiled? Hawthorne asked. He took a raw egg from the refrigerator. Soft, please, Nory answered. Hawthorne cooked the egg the way all flares did, heating it with his hands until it was perfectly done. Then he shot flames into his fingertips and toasted a piece of bread. As he served Nory her food, he said, "Eat up. You'll need your energy. Are you ready for the big test?" Nory nodded. Then she shook her head. Then she nibbled at her toast. "Just do what the teachers ask," Hawthorne advised. "Not more, not less. Don't get weird." "I know," said Nory. She tried to swallow, but the breadcrumbs stuck in her throat. "They want you to be predictable." "I know. And precise." "I know." "So get your details correct, down to the whiskers." "Okay." "Keep control of your animal body." "Okay." "And braid your hair, tight. Also, you can't wear those pants." Nory looked down at her clothes. "But these are my lucky purple jeans." Hawthorne shook his head. "Change into that dress with the nice collar." Nory stood up. "Not now, after breakfast." Nory sat down, and Hawthorne gave her more instructions. Dahlia joined in too. They talked at her while she tried to eat. They talked at her through the door while she changed her outfit. They talked at her all the way to Sage Academy, which was a 10-minute walk from their house. They led her through the school gates and paused. Hawthorne placed his hands on Nory's shoulders. "Whatever happens, whatever you turn into, don't lick anything." "Or eat anything," said Dahlia. Hawthorne hugged Nory. "Just do your best." "And pass the test," Dahlia added. "Not that we're worried," they said together. Then they were gone. Hawthorne was expected at his summer job. Dahlia had an appointment with her math tutor. Nory was on her own. The building that held Sage Academy's Hall of Magic and Performance was tall and made of stone. Gargoyles looked down from above. Inside, Nory found a line of kids standing with their parents. They were all there for the big test. Mothers smoothed their children's hair. Fathers patted shoulders and buttoned cardigans. Nory's dress was itchy. In front of her was a light-skinned girl with a sharp, short haircut. Her features were small, her hands were small, and her feet were small. The only big thing about her was her glasses. She had black frames. Each lens was the size of a large cookie. The girl's dad spoke to her in a low voice. "You can light matches, Lacey. We know that, but let's go over the marshmallow." "Golden brown in 4 seconds, slightly burned in 6, the girl, Lacey, recited. Her lip was trembling. "If you undercook it, you won't get into Sage Academy," her dad warned. "If you overcook it, that's even worse." Lacey nodded. "Don't mess up," said the dad. Lacey's fingers started to shake. Nory felt bad for her. She didn't think Lacey's dad was being particularly helpful. She tapped Lacey on the shoulder and smiled. "This is scary, isn't it?" Nory said. "My stomach's like a huge knot." Lacey whipped around. "Shh. Don't you realize people are concentrating? People are reviewing their magic techniques." Nory blushed. She chewed the inside of her cheeks and waited. The line moved forward. Now 10 kids were in line ahead of her, then 8, then 5, then 1. Lacey's name was called, and a look of pure panic flashed across her face. "Good luck," Nory said. "Shh," Lacey said again. She smoothed out her expression, shrugged off a hug from her father, and marched into the Hall of Magic and Performance to take the big test. Silence. More silence. Then, from behind the Hall of Magic and Performance door, great racking sobs. Lacey burst out from the room, ran down the long hall, and pushed through the heavy doors of the building. "Lacey," the girl's dad cried, dashing after his daughter. "Lacey!" Lacey's wails sounded ghostly. Nory shivered. It was her turn. Chapter 3. The Hall of Magic and Performance was very grand. The ceilings were painted with dragons and unicorns. The seats were covered in dark purple velvet. The curtains on the side of the stage were gold. A large chandelier hung from the ceiling, lit by candles. On stage was a wooden table that looked to be as old as the school itself. Nory walked onto the stage and faced the audience. Seated in the front row were 4 teachers and her father, the headmaster. He wore his second-best suit. He didn't smile. He sat rigid. He didn't even tell anyone that Nory was his daughter. Everybody knew. Nory's legs wobbled. "State your name," commanded Mr. Poothor. Nory had met him before, when she attended school events with her siblings. In all those times, she'd never seen him smile, not once. Nory Boxwood Horace, she answered, but everyone calls me Nory. Mr. Poothor drew his eyebrows together. We will begin with basic tests, Miss Horace. If you show talent in one area of magic, we will ask to see more of what you can do in that category. Nory nodded. For example, continued Mr. Poothor, the flare test begins with lighting a match. If you can do that, we will ask you to roast a marshmallow, then cook an egg, and so forth. Nory nodded again. However, if you cannot light a match, you are not a flare, in which case we will move on to the next category. Do you understand? Yes. Please approach the table, Miss Horace. Nory stepped forward. On the table was a box. You may open it, said Mr. Poothor. Nory opened it and pulled out a large, warty toad. It croaked and blinked its bulging eyes. Make the toad disappear, Mr. Poothor instructed. This is a flicker test, then, thought Nory, making things turn invisible like her father could. Nory figured she might as well give it a shot. It would be so great to be a flicker like her father and not a messed-up flexor. She closed her eyes. She tried to erase that toad with her mind. She really, really tried. No toad, no toad, no toad. She opened her eyes. The toad was still there. Its eyes were still bulging. The teachers made marks in their notebooks. Nory's father pursed his lips and made the toad disappear himself. Next, Mr. Poothor stepped onto the stage and produced a box of matches. He set the box on the table, took out a single match, and held it out to Nory. Light this for us without striking it. The flare test. Flares could manipulate fire and heat like Hawthorne did. Maybe I can do this one, Nory thought. She had lit the sofa on fire after all, that time she came down with a small case of dragon. Don't even think about it, or it might happen. Nory shook her head. I can't, she told Mr. Poothor. The teachers made marks in their notebooks. All right, then, said Mr. Poothor. Lift yourself in the air, 2 feet above the floor precisely. Oh, thought Nory, the flyer test. Nory wasn't a flyer, but she had indeed flown, more than once. For example, in January, she had turned into a mouse with bluebird wings, and nope, they do not want to see that. These professors wanted normal flyer flying. Nory contracted her muscles. She sensed her face turning red. Up, 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 up. She remained firmly on the floor. Silly faces won't make you fly, Miss Horace, said Mr. Poothor. Let's move on. I will summon Pokey. He whistled a short melody. A silver unicorn peeked out from backstage. Shyly, it trotted out. As you know, unicorns do not like mushrooms, said Mr. Poothor, and they're quite skittish around most humans. A small pile of mushrooms appeared on the table in front of Nory. Convince Pokey to nibble them from your hand. The fuzzy test, then. Dahlia could do this in a heartbeat. Nory scooped up the mushrooms. Here, girl, she said. Here, Pokey. She took a step toward the unicorn. Pokey whinnied and stepped away. No, Pokey, you like mushrooms. Yummy, yummy mushrooms. Pokey stepped back. Enough, Mr. Poothor said wearily, but Nory kept trying. Come on, Pokey, be a big brave unicorn. I won't hurt you. She took a deep breath. Eat the mushrooms, pretty please. Nory moved a step forward. Pokey reared onto her hind legs and bolted. She galloped 3 times around the stage before leaping off and thundering down the aisle. She made a sharp right in the lobby and disappeared up the stairs. Nory wanted to hide. 4 tests failed. Pokey afraid, Mr. Poothor exasperated, her father frozen in his seat. Still, the flexor test would be next. She could do it. She knew she could. Okay, we're going to stop there for today. Thank you guys for listening. I will be back in a few days with the next installment of Upside Down Magic. Remember, these episodes go up every Sunday and Wednesday at 3 p.m. in July. Thanks for coming, and don't forget to read with your reading buddy in the meantime. See you next time. Bye!